888-350-350.
AM 560, The Answer.
Hey, Chicago, back on the show, all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. Check out my website, shalomklein.com. That's where you can download 6+ years of the show, all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. And while you're there, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Shalom Klein. So I'm thrilled to be joined by Jeannette Collazo, who is the president and CEO of the Lourdes Consulting Group. And Jeannette, it's such a pleasure to have you here on the program.
No, thanks for having me. I do appreciate the invitation. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor for me.
Absolutely. And you have quite an impressive background, quite an impressive bio, 2 decades of stellar project management success and bilingual expertise in your work helping companies institute IT projects, data migration, data center transformation. I go on and on and on, but Jeannette, our listeners love to get to know the person behind the microphone beyond just the written bio. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am I have been in the career for 25 years in IT project management. I decided to become an entrepreneur actually last year after so many years of experience. The reason why I decided to start into doing my own business in project management is because I saw there was a need for project management in the sense of pricing. Pricing of IT is pretty high these days, especially in the project management field. So I saw there was a need for that. I saw also there was a need for it because a lot of customers were actually excluding project management from it because of the high cost. So I believe that by me being a smaller company, like we would call a boutique style company, that I could bring a better service at a lower price to my clients.
That's amazing. And you recently wrote a book. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's another reason. I decided to write this book. Project management is pretty broad, right? Sometimes some people refer to it as, it's a little bit on the boring side, right? But it really isn't, right? Project management is not about only the tools. It's not only about, it's not only about following a methodology or following processes. In the end, a project manager, all he does is takes a team into fulfilling and completing a project, right? So what it boils down to is relationships, right? Relationships with the people in your team, all the vendors that you work with the CIO, all the way down to the business analyst, right? So a lot of people focus only on the technicality of things of a project, but they forget that human factor that is so important, so critical to really. So if I don't understand each one of the members individually in my project, how am I going to be successful in completing a project, even if I give them the best tools, right? If they can't communicate between each other, how are they going to do that? So that's what my book is all about.
That's right. And Jeannette, the book is called Team. You keep using that. It actually is an acronym, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But Team, the IT project manager's secret decoder for increasing relational excellence. And so let's talk about what the acronym of Team is and what the team assessment looks like.
Sure. So the acronym stands for T, which is tenacious, the E, which is equitable, the A for analytical, and then the M for I forgot what the break of them was. The M
magnetic.
Was magnetic, right? So, but anyways, I'm a T, and basically what we're trying to do with the assessment is trying to determine what each one of the personalities of my team are, right? So how do you deal with a person that's tenacious, a person that's a type A personality like me, right? Or how do you deal with a person that's more magnetic, right? That is more on a cheerful side. Sometimes the team might wake up on the left side of the bed and say, okay, I can't stand that magnetic person right now. I can't deal with him right now. How do you go about that, right? So the assessment, which by the way, you can find on my website at www.lourdesconsultinggroup.com, Lourdes spelled L-U-R-D-E-Z. It's basically, you go out there and it's going to assess really what are your, I wouldn't call them strengths or weaknesses. It's more, what are you more inclined towards in life, right? How do you really like what is measuring? How do you really like to be spoken, right? What really gets you going? What is really motivates you to get the work done, right? So that's really what the assessment is all about. is basically to find how that person, I'm going to approach that person and tell them, instead of saying, some people, believe it or not, like to be direct, tell me how to do it. Some people, if you're too direct with them, going to be offended. So how do I go there? So the tool, it's supposed to help me try to better understand and build that relationship with the team member.
It's really, really interesting. And you talked about personality types. And right now, I think in this era that still many of us are continuing to work remotely, we're finding, interestingly, that you discover people's personality types a lot more than when you're necessarily around them. And there's some, call it social subtleisms that can cover over. So COVID-19 indeed has forced many people to work from home and away from the office. It's difficult to work with a team that has different personalities in this communication sense. Tell us how the team's approach has worked and what you're hearing these days.
So it's very interesting. I found it really quite a coincidence that I have written that book precisely at the right moment. You know, what a coincidence, right? It's like, I would have a crystal ball. It has worked out great for me. But obviously, with my main client, I have built a really good relationship by applying what I am talking about in the book and by approaching people in that way. And needless to say, for me, it was a little bit of a challenge the first 3 weeks when we rolled out. I work in IT, so the responsibility of my team was moving 5,000 people, literally from working in an office environment and moving them back to home, right? So now it was not me working directly with my team. It was more me trying to get people outside of my team to try to work in the new way of doing work, right? And it's still a struggle, you know, for a lot of managers in understanding that you can't treat people or try to run a project in the same way that you would if you would have been in the office. It's a total different world. You need to give people more flexibility. You can't, you know, expect for people to stamp at 8 a.m. and then be done by 4. It doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, a lot of companies, a lot of departments still believe that. And they have that old mentality, and they're either going to have to really join the club and really try to give those employees the opportunity to be able to fit this new way of working into their own personal place, right? Because as you think about it, it's an invasion of your own privacy, right? You're invading my home now. You know, my home was that place where I would just break and say, I don't want to talk about work. Now I'm having to roll my personal life into my business. And how do I go about that? And I believe that with the book and the things that I talk about, I think have been very helpful in trying to, I have applied a lot of it, and not only for my team, but outside of my team.
Indeed, and I'm chatting with Jeannette Collazo, who is the CEO and president of the Lourdes Consulting Group. And Jeannette, you're called a lot of things, including most commonly a project manager. And from what I understand, you are being called upon quite a bit as a project manager and helping companies ensure that their IT teams are working as flawlessly as possible. In our minute or so remaining, can you tell us a little bit about what sort of roles you usually step into and what works and what doesn't?
So my role normally is I play a role mostly as a program manager these days, right? So what works and what doesn't work? Well, it varies. It's a very, very broad, difficult question to answer because it boils down to what really works is just trying to have an understanding of each person individually, right? You can't apply the same thing that I apply. You're not going to work in the same way by me treating you this way than I would with my other team, with the other person in the team, right? So it's trying to get to understand people on a personal level and try to adjust yourself as a project manager to them so that they feel comfortable working with you. That's the only way you're going to be able to get a project going.
Wow. Great advice. And again, the book, all about team being an important acronym, including working together. Jeannette Collazo from the Lourdes Consulting Group. Thanks so much for joining us on the air. Can you once again share the website where people can get in touch with you?
Yes, that is www.lourdesconsultinggroup.com. Lourdes spelled Lourdez as in zebra. contrary to the normal Lourdes that you would hear out there, which is Lourdes.
Well, thank you so much, Jeannette, for joining us on the air. We'll hope that the remaining period of helping businesses continues to go well. We'll be squeezing in a quick break over here and joined by Ron Bacci from the Italian American Veterans Museum. Right after this quick break, Chicago, don't touch that dial. You're listening to the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. Get down to business. We'll be right back.
America